YouTube, how is it going? We are here today for the first video of the 3-day split. We have a predominantly chest focused push workout, which is normally how I like to start the week with these 3-day splits. So we'll be hitting this one today and then going into our lower day focus tomorrow. So I like to typically put chest or push, so chest, shoulders, before doing lower body, because normally can recover pretty quickly, not have any back tightness or back soreness, and it doesn't seem to impact that session. So that's a little bit of insight into why we're starting this 3-day split with an upper body day. The other more kind of practical reason, in a sense, is I always feel like the first day of a split, we typically think that it's a Monday. I'm currently doing this on a Monday, and coming off the weekend, off a recovery day, things like that, we always want to hit chest. There's no better day to hit chest than Monday, because it starts the week off right. You can always push yourself through a chest-based workout, whereas I feel like if I put legs or lower body in that first day workout, I'm always a little less motivated to hit that session. So in terms of starting your week off right, chest day, focus day, everybody loves chest day, right? And that's why we've got it programmed in. And so I'll typically run like a 3-day split fairly often. It's not the only split that I ever run in my program, but it's something that I generally do enjoy, especially to make in a couple of extra recovery days. And I normally don't think about planning my sessions across a 7-day period. I just kind of more so think about them in blocks. I'm currently proposing a 6-week block, so rather than it being I have to squeeze sessions into the 7 days, I just more so look at the total amount of days, so 42, and then how many sessions can I get in. It gives me the opportunity to distribute my sessions. Some days, if I feel good or I feel less sore or whatever, I might run the block 4 days on, 5 days on, 6 days on, and not actually take a rest day. So given that today's focus is to start off our 3-day split, that's where we're going to be. Our exercise selection, our volumes, our intensities, I'll talk about all that stuff once we get into the gym. So we'll see you there. Alright, so we got our first warm-up exercise, which fairly simple. A lot of people like to stretch and things like that. This is one that I've found to be the most effective, which is just a simple bar hang. So we hang out here, we get a nice little shoulder stretch, open up our chest, works on some grip, makes you half an inch taller with a spinal decompression. And we can get some little scaptions in as well. Again, I don't typically spend too long warming up for these type of days. Just something pretty quick. If you need a quick temperature raiser, you can go on the treadmill or bike or elliptical, Stairmaster, whatever you need. And then we can move into our main exercise for the day. So also don't go to failure, just where the grip starts to feel a little tasty, gets the forearms nice and warm. And then we move into our main exercise. So warming up for this session, because we are going to be using incline bench as our primary exercise, what I like to do is actually get some shoulder press in. So the incline is at a higher gradient, and then we just drop down the degrees. So then that way we can warm up, get a little bit of anterior delt, get some shoulder work in, and then hit our main working sets for chest on the incline bench. That's typically how I like to do it. There are other ways to warm up. You can just warm up with incline bench and just do progressive load. And the other thing I typically do with this warm-up is we don't go to failure. We leave a few reps in the tank, so we have a little bit of shorter rest period. And then when we get to our main set, that's when we reintroduce our longer rest. So each set, we just put this down one, So then as we progress, we get 3 warm-up sets in, and then that gets us to our working weight. Didn't have that today. So some days are just going to feel better than others with this. And again, you're always weaker incline than you are flat bench. And the one thing that I'll say is, like, sometimes people put the incline too low, and so essentially you're just doing a flat bench with a small incline, which, again, this is probably a kind of 30 to 45 degree bench angle. Is probably where you want it to be typically to do that set. We weren't in the rep range for the hundreds, so we dropped down. That's always a smart thing to do. Didn't feel too good. Also, one of them dumbbell handles is kind of bent, so I'm going to blame that as well. But all right. All right, so that's a good weight. Take 2-minute rest. So I always like to respect the rest period. Don't need to go too long, but generally speaking, anything that's under a minute, you're not going to be able to fully recover. So you're not going to be able to get that many effective reps in. And fatigue might not be the thing that really stimulates hypertrophy. It might be a little small component of it in terms of recruiting larger motor units. As you get fatigued, you're going to recruit those bigger motor units. But in terms of needing failure every single set and stuff like that, we can work close to proximity to failure. But with primary exercises and stuff, I like to gauge it. So again, my aim was 6+ reps. We try what we thought was working weight for today. Probably needed maybe 1 extra warm-up because it was a fairly considerable jump. But we'll stick here because this will be able to get us our effective reps in. So another 30 seconds rest, and then we'll hit our next set. So I know some people as well, there's a lot of arguments in a sense of where your elbow position should go, whether you flare them out, have them in. I think kind of anywhere in this happy range normally is what feels good, at least for my elbows. But I actually kind of want to abduct a little bit more because I generally feel a better stretch and a better level of comfort. But for some people, that doesn't feel too great of a position. So probably don't want to be nice in the narrow. So that kind of 45 degree, anywhere between 45 and 90, 60 degree I think is probably the happy medium there. But I think too many people are getting too far down the rabbit hole in terms of optimal length tension. Just do some different ranges with different movements, as you'll see with today's session, and that's probably all about what you need in terms of that. So we're not going to do a back off set. We're going to see if we can rep match that last set, and then we'll go from there. All right, hit this last set. Not too bad. So moving to our next exercise. All right, so next up we got pec deck. Typically we set these up in the reverse rear delt setting, so then that way one, two, three. Sometimes, honestly, my shoulder feels a little awkward with pec deck. And I think it's just because I'm feeling a little sore from last week. But we'll go a little higher volume on this one. Again, 3 working sets, so we got 2 more after this 2-minute rest. So just as we sit here resting for set 2, we could also do this as a second exercise. Again, it depends on machine availability, and I think pec deck and machine flat bench are pretty popular machines. So in terms of if you see the availability, just jump on a machine. It's always the most recommended thing to do. All right, second set. All right. Finish with a little length and partial. All right, 2 more minutes rest, then we'll hit third set. So next up, go flat bench variation. So we've got the machine flat bench, which arguably is probably one of my favorite machines that are out there. Now there are different ones, not all machine flat benches are created equally. This one I can get a fantastic stretch on, and also I feel comfortable in terms of setup and position, and you can push pretty heavy to failure. And the worst thing that can happen is you pop the machine down, you're not going to get crushed by a bar or flying dumbbells and things like that. So it's arguably one of my better machines. Again, we got 3 working sets. We don't need to warm up because our chest is pretty warmed up from the incline bench. And sometimes we can use substitution variations of this exercise and things. So again, we're just going to push the reps on this one. see what we got. All right, 2-minute rest, 2 more sets. All right, last set. All right, so next up we have actually a more shoulder focused exercise. So a little cable crossbody lateral raise. So take what we got with the machine here in terms of setup. So again, a little bit of higher volume for this one, and we're only going 2 sets, and we want to step out just a little bit so it allows our arm to come across the body. And you notice that I've got the cable stack set up to about wrist height. We always start weak side with this one, so we get that weaker arm first. All right, just 2 sets of these. And with this, we take a little bit of a shotgun rest style approach. Once that left arm is stopped, we then start the rest clock. So about 1:30 rest between sides, but one of those sides is still working during a bit of that rest period as well. A lot of people use like wrist attachments and stuff and cuffs for this, which is fine. But I honestly don't find that it's my grip that's the limiting factor. It's actually my shoulders, which I need to develop. So sometimes I will use wrist wraps, but right now, handle, work on grip strength. All right, so we hit shoulders. So now we got 2 sets of a cable, high cable chest fly. So away.
Oh. So I like to take those again a little higher volume, seeing as we did more higher intensity for those other sets of exercises that we hit. So 2 sets here, a little 2-minute rest. So I think a lot of people get concerned with exercise order, exercise selection, and things like that. I think the ultimate message that we get from this is train in different lengthened positions. So in the case of this session, we have incline, machine flat bench, we have a pec deck, and then the fly. You cover all 4 of those bases and you hit that 2-3 times a week, you're going to be onto a winner in terms of muscle growth. So it doesn't really matter what exercise in a sense, it more so matters in terms of the positions and the different variety in those positions. If I only flat bench, and I do 10 sets a session of just flat bench, I'm not going to be exposing myself to different length tension relationships, and my chest will still grow and probably grow for a little while, but then eventually we want to get deeper stretches, we won't want to be limited by a barbell and things like that. So that's my general consensus as a coach in terms of session format and planning this stuff. I just want to be in different positions, and with that chest and shoulder theme today, this high chest fly is not only a chest exercise, there's also a little bit of contribution of the shoulder in there as well. All right, tricep time. And with triceps, because we're at the cable machine, I stick to doing a cable tricep exercise. I actually like to do a kickback on this day. Again, exercise selection, don't think it really matters as long as we hit triceps. So the other thing that we have with this machine, unfortunately, is I can't unclip the D-ring, so can't clip on a strap. So instead, we'll use the D handle, and what we do is just angle it upwards, and so then the strap is in your hand, and that way I can get a little lean back and then push back. So I like to take every set to failure on this, and actually we switch back to now 3 sets because we didn't really get too much of a primary direct stimulus with the other exercises on triceps. Sure, triceps are definitely there in all of our push exercises, so there's some fractional set work in there, but in terms of true exposure, we go back up to 3 sets for this one. So as we just rest for this last set, the thing that I like to do is, even though we do have triceps as our main focus, is hit one exercise that's bicep focused. So we'll do 2 tricep, 1 bicep, and then what you'll notice is on the back day where we do a bit more bicep work, so the 3rd day in the 3-day split, that's where we'll hit 2 biceps, 1 tricep. So we kind of rotate around there, and then that way we get arm exposure in every 2 days, but the focus of the arms and the muscles that get fatigued and the volume is different depending on the theme of the day. So I like to go tricep on chest day because normally our chest gets fatigued and can be a contributing factor for some of our tricep movements and shoulders as well. So by doing that, we create a little bit of systemic fatigue in other muscle groups, which means then that target load purely goes through the tricep, hence why we're doing a kickback with a bit of a stretch position for the chest. Whereas, for example, like JM press and things like that, where you definitely still isolate your triceps, but chest is going to also be a big boy that comes in and saves you as well. So we'll hit last set here. All right, triceps done, onto bicep. So we go back to the theme of the incline bench, but now for some bicep curl work. And the reason why I like this one on chest day is because it gets a nice stretch on the chest at the end of the session. So it helps us a little bit of a warm down stretch, but also because of that position, also get a nice little isolation on the biceps. So that's where, again, for me, this exercise is still goated. I know that people are saying that preacher curl is better. I think having preacher curl in on your bicep focus day, having this one in on your chest day, is definitely going to help your arms grow. So we got 2 sets to failure, and then 1 last tricep exercise. You'll notice I'll switch to a little hammer curl and do a reverse Stockman just at the end there, but I feel like I can squeeze out a couple of extra more reps. So that's a little trick to do. Instead of staying strict and supinated, you can hit a couple more reps by doing a reverse Stockman curl as well. So we'll respect the rest on this one, and then we hit 1 more set. All right, that's biceps done. All right, so I'd like to finish this off with a push variation. So we'll do a overhead tricep extension. So what we do is with that is we get a few cheat reps in with a push at the end, because we're going to get concentric failure first on the tricep extension. So to get a few extra reps in, we use our knees, do more of a push press, and then we control that eccentric. I'm still going to be in the camp that the eccentric might be slightly more favorable for muscle growth than the concentric action. So by getting both, best of both worlds. So go to failure, and then once mechanical failure hits, we switch the technique. So in a sense, a mechanical drop set, and we get a few extra reps in with the focused eccentric. So we got 2 sets here. So second set, and then we're out of here. All right, that's session done. We'll see you in the car.
All right, so we've just finished up the first day of the 3-day split. Very heavily chest focused with a little bit of shoulder accessory work in there, a little bit of triceps. I typically like to distribute that when I'm doing these 3-day types of splits, so it's more a predominantly push day with some shoulder tricep work in there. And that caps it off in terms of how that first session goes. Again, the warm-up, I like to use a little bit of incline bench shoulder press and then decrease the gradient so that we get a little bit of exposure to the shoulder anterior delt, and then in those lighter sets, which is generally a little bit more load anyway than what we could push in terms of an incline bench or a flat bench. So by the time we get to our heavier sets, we're on the incline, we can then smash that. A lesson learned in today's is some days what you have programmed down on paper might not be the intensity that you can hit. So there's nothing wrong with doing a back down or pushing the weight that feels like the 6RM, 7RM, whatever we were working towards today. So lesson learned there, respecting the rest as well. And then the other thing is the exercise selection. I mentioned this in the session itself, but it doesn't really matter too much. There are not really that many true S-tier type exercises. So for me on this type of day, because we won't hit chest again now for at least 4 days, that allows us to get a lot of volume in on different exercises in different positions. Could you just add more sets of incline bench and not do the machine flat bench? Absolutely. Could you do machine flat bench instead of incline bench? Totally. So again, it doesn't really matter too much. Like, I think a lot of people lose too much sleep over, oh, how many optimal sets, different exercises, spending too much time transitioning between machines. That's personally how I like to structure it. There are different programs that I've wrote, there are different splits that I've wrote. So just giving a little brief intro into tomorrow's session, which will be a primary quad day, leg day focus, so we'll get a little bit more quad exposure. There's still some hamstring work in there. I like to kind of hit both the anterior chain and the posterior chain within my leg days, because again, we're only getting 2 of them within our true structured calendar week. So gives us opportunity to do that. And because we hit chest today and a bit of shoulders, shouldn't be too much residual fatigue going into tomorrow's session, so we should be pretty good from that aspect. Won't have any lower back tightness or soreness or anything for our derivatives that we're going to be using. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, as that's when we will release the leg day of this 3-day split. And this is actually the A block of this, so we're actually going to be filming a few more videos where we'll do a B block of the 3-day split as well, so how it looks distributed across the full 7-day week. So then it gives you a full week program that you can then go and use and implement yourself. So if you liked today's video and you've liked this so far, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a follow. And if you have any comments in terms of how you structure your chest day in a 3-day split, or if you have any questions around what I did, I would love for you to get them in the comments, because that way we can create a bit of discussion. I think healthy debate is great in terms of pushing everybody's knowledge further forward when it comes to training. So there are no right and wrongs, I don't think, here. But in terms of today's session, I don't think there's any wrongs, but maybe you do. So let me know on that one. And again, don't forget to hit that notification button, because I will be releasing these videos periodically, these little series, so that you can get a bit of inspiration within your own training. And lastly, don't forget to follow me on the socials. I'm posting more regularly on Instagram and TikTok, as well as on here. So make sure you're following along on all the different platforms, and we'll see you in the next one.